Welcome to another episode of PPL Pod. Usually when we talk about a major YouTube milestone, like a really massive one, we're talking about, I don't know, a viral stunt video.
Right, or like a massive gaming channel hitting some, new subscriber tier.
Exactly. And it's a big number, but it is usually contained within its own specific sort of isolated corner of the internet.
Yeah, it stays in its lane.
But then you look at February of 2026. A single musical act became the first in history to surpass 100 million YouTube subscribers.
Which is just a staggering amount of people.
Right, and they didn't just get a plaque. YouTube literally had to give them a custom Red Diamond Creator Award. And here's the kicker. For anyone who maybe hasn't been paying super close attention to global pop trends, they aren't a Western pop legacy act.
No, not at all.
They are a four-woman South Korean group that has basically outsold, outstreamed, and outtoured nearly everyone else on the entire planet. I mean, they even received honorary MBEs from King Charles III.
It is the absolute definition of a global phenomenon. We're looking at a cultural empire here.
Wait, let me push back on that for a second. Because empire, that feels like a massive, almost geopolitical word for a pop group. Are we talking about just a really popular band with incredible merchandising, or is this structurally different than what we've seen before?
Oh, it is fundamentally different.
Yeah.
And to understand why, you really have to look at the meticulous design behind it. So today, we are doing a deep dive into Blackpink. That's Jisoo, Jennie, Rosé, and Lisa.
And we're going to explore exactly how they engineered their path to become the undisputed biggest girl group in the world.
Right.
And for you listening, whether you are a diehard fan of Blink, as the fandom is called, or just someone who occasionally hears their bass drops in the background of a TikTok video, this deep dive is going to reveal the intense dedication, the strategic brilliance, and the massive cultural shifts that built the Blackpink infrastructure.
Exactly, because, this wasn't an accident of viral algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
To really understand Blackpink, you have to understand the overarching context of the K-pop industry.
Yeah.
And specifically, there's this psychological and aesthetic concept known as girl crush.
I've heard this term thrown around. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, for a very long time, the dominant archetype for female groups in the K-pop industry leaned really heavily into bubbly, purely adorable, highly innocent themes.
Like very sweet and approachable.
Right. It was largely catered toward a specific male gaze, honestly.
Right.
But Girl Crush is a deliberate pivot away from that. It explores themes of self-confidence, female empowerment, and this really edgy swagger.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's about appealing just as strongly, if not more so, to a female audience who looks at these performers and says, I want to be that confident. It's aspirational independence.
So they aren't just asking for you to think they're cute. They are demanding your respect and your attention. It's a totally different power dynamic.
Precisely. And to understand their flawless global dominance today, we have to look back at the grueling, largely invisible years of preparation that started over a decade ago.
Right.
Because this polished exterior you see today, it was forged in an absolute pressure cooker.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I think in the West, there is this persistent, almost dismissive misconception that these pop groups are just randomly assembled overnight.
Oh yeah, like executives just pointing at headshots in a boardroom.
Exactly. But the reality is less like starting a garage band and much more like a brutal Silicon Valley tech incubator.
That's a great way to put it.
You take thousands of raw startups, the trainees in this case, and you subject them to extreme stress testing until only a few unicorns survive.
That is a highly accurate analogy. YG Entertainment, that's their label, started this massive global search back in 2010 to follow up their previous hit girl group, 2NE1. And the mathematical odds of making it through this trainee system are just staggering.
It's basically an Olympic training camp. Like, look at Lisa. She was the only person out of 4,000 applicants in Thailand to pass her 2010 audition.
Wow.
4,000 to 1. And that just got her in the door to become YG's very first foreign trainee.
And what's fascinating here is how that rigorous selection process intentionally targeted a diverse geographical background. I mean, you have Jennie, who moved back to South Korea after studying in New Zealand.
Right.
You have Rosé, who beat out 700 applicants in Australia. You have Lisa from Thailand and Jisoo from South Korea. This was not a coincidence.
It was a built-in advantage for global crossover right from the start.
Exactly. But it also meant these incredibly young women were navigating extreme culture shock, language barriers, and just intense homesickness while undergoing multidisciplinary training.
Because they weren't just learning to sing and dance.
No, not at all. They were taking language lessons, media training, and basically psychological endurance tests.
It's wild. You read their own words from the sources we gathered, and it sounds utterly exhausting. Like, Jenny explicitly called the trainee experience more strict than school.
Yeah.
And Rosé compared it to being on the reality show The X Factor, but living in dorm rooms 24/7 without knowing if you'd ever actually get to debut.
The uncertainty must have been brutal.
Right. They were essentially enrolled in a full-time, high-stakes pop star academy for 6 years before the public ever heard a single note.
And that time in the dark, so to speak, is where their specific identity was honed to a razor's edge. Even their name, Blackpink, which was finally confirmed in 2016 just before their debut, perfectly encapsulates the duality they were building.
Right. A label representative actually came out and said the name literally means pretty isn't everything.
Exactly.
You've got the fierce, edgy, girl crush energy represented by the black, combined with the vibrant, traditionally feminine aesthetics of the pink. It's a contrast that tells the audience exactly who they are before they even open their mouths to sing.
So you have these 4 highly trained, diverse performers who have sacrificed their entire youth to this system. What happens when you drop that level of pent-up precision onto a music industry that was completely starved for it?
It's a detonation.
Absolute explosion.
August 2016. Their single album, Square One, drops, featuring the tracks Whistle and Boombaya. And they didn't just slowly build an audience, they immediately swept the charts.
Really?
Whistle hit #1 in South Korea, and Boombaya topped the U.S. Billboard World Digital Songs chart. They hit the ground sprinting at full speed.
But the true Western breakthrough, the moment that fundamentally shifted the global pop landscape and forced Western executives to take notes, came in 2018 with the release of DDU-DU.
Oh, that song. It wasn't just a hit, it was a systemic breakthrough. It became the highest charting song by a Korean girl group in the U.S. And here is a massive milestone. It was the first song by a Korean female group to get an RIAA certification.
We should probably clarify what that actually means for the listener because it's a crucial data point.
Right. So the RIAA is the Recording Industry Association of America. Getting a certification from them isn't about YouTube views or Twitter trends.
Oh, it's tangible.
Exactly. It means you have moved massive, verified commercial units like gold or platinum sales in the United States. It proved they weren't just an internet fad. They were a commercially viable powerhouse in the hardest music market in the world to crack.
And the music video.
Oh, it became the first K-pop group video to hit 1 billion views and eventually cross 2 billion.
Let's talk about the why and the how of that song's success, though, because it wasn't just marketing momentum, it was the specific musicality.
Yeah, it's that signature Blackpink sonic architecture. You have these grand, almost cinematic intros, and then my absolute favorite part, these heavy thumping EDM trap beats.
And for those who might not know, when we say EDM trap, we're talking about a style that blends electronic dance music with the heavy 808 sub-bass and rapid-fire hi-hat cymbals originally found in Southern hip-hop.
And it hits hard.
It creates this aggressive, swaggering sound that Western audiences love, but Blackpink pairs it with undeniably catchy melodic pop choruses.
It's the perfect bridge. It's aggressive enough for a club, but melodic enough for top 40 radio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we look at the cultural landscape at that time, they capitalized on a massive void in the Western market. Think back to the 90s and early 2000s, when groups like TLC and the Spice Girls absolutely dominated the culture.
Right.
Blackpink actually cites both of those groups as major influences.
Because Western pop had largely moved away from that highly synchronized, fiercely confident female group dynamic, we had moved into an era of solo pop stars and indie pop singers.
Right. Blackpink updated that precise, confident girl power energy for the modern streaming era. They filled a gap that Western audiences didn't even realize was empty.
And that strategy completely paid off on one very specific stage, Coachella 2019. They were the first female K-pop group to ever perform at the festival.
That was a vital turning point. It's one thing to have billions of streams and a highly dedicated online fandom that organizes streaming parties.
Yeah.
It's an entirely different beast to stand in front of a massive general audience festival crowd in the California desert. A crowd where the vast majority of people do not speak a word of Korean and completely captivate them.
It proved that their live performance and their sheer stage presence transcended the language barrier entirely. They proved to the industry that they were festival headliner material.
Unquestionably.
So they conquer Coachella, they secure a massive foothold in the West, and then 2020 happens. The entire world shuts down.
The live music industry basically died overnight.
Right, and I was looking at their 2020 numbers while prepping for this deep dive, and I was totally confused at first. Live music died, but they actually got bigger.
It's counterintuitive, right?
Totally. Then I realized they didn't just survive the pandemic. Their entirely digital-first, globally connected ecosystem was basically built for it.
That is a perfect observation. Many artists just stalled out. But Blackpink leveraged digital platforms and highly strategic collaborations to push themselves into the stratosphere. They spent 2020 aligning themselves with absolute Western pop royalty.
Yeah, they dropped Sour Candy with Lady Gaga, which became their first top 40 hit in the US. Then they released Ice Cream with Selena Gomez, which debuted at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100.
But let's break down the mechanics of how these collaborations worked, because it wasn't just throwing a verse onto a track for fun. It was a highly calculated cultural exchange.
It was an algorithm exchange, basically.
Exactly. For Blackpink, collaborating with Lady Gaga legitimized them to an older millennial pop audience who might have previously dismissed K-pop as just for teenagers. It cemented them as peers to Western pop royalty.
And on the flip side, Gaga and Selena Gomez got access to the ferocious, highly organized devotion of the Blink fandom. They got algorithmic juice and guaranteed streaming numbers that are incredibly hard to generate organically in the 2020s.
It was a win-win.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because physical touring was completely impossible, they had to pivot their live spectacle. And they dominated the digital space like no one else.
Oh, completely.
They held a YouTube livestream concert called The Show in early 2021, and over 280,000 paying viewers tuned in.
Which is the equivalent of selling out Madison Square Garden 14 times in a single night.
Yeah, let that sink in. 14 times. And if you're listening to this and thinking, well, I don't listen to K-pop, so this doesn't apply to my corner of the culture, consider this. They also did a virtual in-game concert inside PUBG Mobile with 3D avatars.
Right.
They were reaching millions of fans through video game lobbies. That bypasses physical logistics completely and scales infinitely. That exact strategy is the blueprint your favorite Western artists are frantically trying to copy right now.
Which perfectly set the stage for their physical album sales to shatter historical ceilings. In 2020, they released the album, which became the first million-selling album by a K-pop girl group. But they outdid themselves in 2022 with Born Pink.
2 million copies sold, and it hit #1 in both the US and the UK simultaneously. Let me give you some context for how rare that is. The last time a female group did that was Destiny's Child with Survivor in 2001.
That's a 21-year gap.
21 years where no girl group on earth could pull that off until Blackpink.
And to understand why Born Pink and the album resonated so deeply, beyond just the hype, we have to look at their lyrical themes. Songs like Lovesick Girls are a prime example.
Yeah, that's a great track.
It blends EDM with punk rock guitars, but more importantly, it explores themes of independence and owning your power, even through heartbreak. It's not about being a victim. It's about navigating toxic relationships with your head held high.
It's that girl crush ethos fully realized. They are singing about pain, but they still look and sound invincible.
Right. And because of that intense emotional resonance, their influence became too massive to be contained strictly within the audio container of the music industry. They evolved into something much larger.
Yeah.
They became titans of fashion and, surprisingly, highly influential figures in global diplomacy.
The fashion element is crucial to understanding their empire. For Blackpink, their public image is entirely inseparable from high fashion. They don't just wear the brands, they embody them as global muses. And luxury houses desperately want them because K-pop stars drive physical retail traffic in Asia and digital engagement globally in a way that Hollywood actors simply don't anymore.
Exactly. Jisoo is the global ambassador for Dior. Jennie is the face of Chanel. Rosé represents Yves Saint Laurent. Lisa is the ambassador for Bulgari and Celine. And in 2026, we saw all four of them attend the Met Gala together, cementing their absolute status at the top of the cultural pyramid.
You look at them on a red carpet, and it perfectly blends that visual uniformity required of a cohesive girl group with their very distinct, high-end individual tastes.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop at fashion.
No, it didn't. That level of visibility gives them a platform for real-world advocacy. They use their massive reach to promote the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26. They explicitly released videos asking their millions of fans to learn about the environmental crisis and join the journey towards sustainability.
Which didn't go unnoticed by the global establishment. It actually led to King Charles III investing them as honorary members of the Order of the British Empire, or MBEs in 2023 during a state banquet.
That's just wild.
I just have to pause on that. Imagine going from living in a cramped trainee dorm, taking grueling endurance tests, not knowing if you'll ever debut, to standing in Buckingham Palace being honored by the King of England for your global influence.
It's completely surreal.
It really is.
And it speaks to the undeniable gravity of their cultural footprint. Which brings us to the most recent era, the modern 2026 landscape. Because, as any industry veteran will tell you, maintaining this level of peak relevance for a decade is arguably much harder than achieving it in the first place.
Right. Gravity usually takes hold eventually. Late 2023 was actually a very tense time for the fans because the original 7-year contracts with YG Entertainment were expiring.
Oh yeah, people were nervous.
There was real fear the group might disband to focus on solo work, but they successfully renewed for group activities, and they came back swinging harder than ever.
They absolutely did. February 2026, they launched their Deadline EP, and the numbers are almost hard to comprehend for a group 10 years into their run.
First-day sales for the Deadline EP were 1.46 million copies in a single day, setting brand new records for Hanteo chart history.
It's just staggering.
And for our listeners, the Hanteo chart is South Korea's real-time physical album sales tracker. So that is 1.46 million actual physical pieces of media purchased by human beings in 24 hours. This was driven by massive lead-up singles like Jump in 2025 and their lead track Go in 2026.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at their touring power as the ultimate metric of success. Their Born Pink tour grossed $330 million.
Wow.
They officially broke the Spice Girls record for highest-grossing concert tour by a female group in the entire history of music. And their 2026 Deadline World Tour is already seeing them sell out massive stadiums globally, continuing that exact legacy.
It really brings us full circle. In just a decade, these 4 women went from anonymous trainees fighting through a brutal, high-stress incubator system in South Korea to literally the highest-grossing, most subscribed, most streamed female group on the planet. The sheer gravity of what they have systematically accomplished is breathtaking.
It is, but we also have to acknowledge the reality of the ecosystem they exist in. The immense ongoing pressure required to maintain this peak is extraordinary.
Yeah.
As they enter their 10th year, we are seeing them push their solo careers incredibly hard. Lisa breaking out on her own label, Jennie acting in Hollywood and releasing solo music.
Which creates a fascinating tension. Can you be bigger than the group while still functioning inside the group? How long can they balance the demanding uniformity required of a K-pop act with their massive, distinct individual brands?
This raises an important question about the longevity of the pop group model itself in the modern era. Historically, groups splinter when the individuals get too big. Blackpink is trying to prove you can have both simultaneously.
It's a tightrope walk, for sure. And I want to leave you, our listener, with one final provocative thought to mull over. In an era of incredibly fragmented media where everyone has their own niche algorithm and we rarely agree on what's famous anymore, Blackpink has achieved a true monoculture level of global fame.
Yeah, everyone knows them.
Exactly. So what does it say about the future of global pop culture that the biggest music act in the world communicates, emotes, and dominates primarily in a language that the vast majority of their global audience doesn't even speak? Music has truly, finally, bypassed borders.
It proves that rhythm, confidence, and visual storytelling are universal languages that algorithms just can't contain.
Well said. Thanks for listening to Pele Po Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.